Hello and welcome to this episode of Debriefing. I'm your host, Lucky Fox Zero, and with me as always is Nogre Knights.
Hello.
And Radiant Arkwolf.
Hola, briefcakes.
Alright, and on this episode we'll be playing through episode 7, chapter 2 of Spartan Ops. And the topic for today's discussion is the UNSC Infinity, and why it's an awful idea. So, Radiant, why don't you get us going?
Okay. The problem I have with the Infinity is the fact that they put all of their eggs in one basket when it comes to the Forerunner tech. They put a lot of Forerunner tech into the Infinity to be this big, awesome thing. But as far as military and technological assets, it just seems like a little much. I would have spread that out a little more. Also, this cutscene is a little ridiculous.
I'll do a barrel roll! Oh god, it didn't work!
You would think shoot our own people, because that's a winning plan.
Yeah, you would think with the transponders that the Spartans have built into their suits, to be able to figure out, hey, they're right here.
One would think. So, I guess that's another issue I have. So, also the fact that, the Infinity seems like, not so much a waste of material, but, it's not the avenue I would go right after a great war. I would focus on recolonizing the stars, either trying to recapture glass planets, or finding new hospitable ones so that humanity can get a foothold back in the galactic theater. So yeah.
Yeah, the Infinity makes sense as, for example, a command ship for the UNSC fleet. It doesn't make sense how they built it, which is, this is basically our only ship now, have fun with it. If it was the prototype for a new generation of command ships, I would say that's great, but right now it's very much a waste of resources because they were very weak when it was being built. They had very few ships left at the end of Halo 3, at the end of the Covenant War, and while they were building this, they're not really building too many others. It's kind of just this one and maybe a few others at Earth, which is pretty much our biggest military production area left over.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree and kind of echo what you guys are saying, and I'm gonna throw out the analogy that I feel that humanity as a whole is a lot more like France or Britain after World War II, devastated but alive, where I feel like they were kind of taking humanity more like the US was in the 1950s and 60s, where we're creating, nuclear-powered aircraft carriers and trying to flex our military-industrial muscles and show the world, hey, we're a superpower, we're awesome, don't mess with us.
Yeah,
where I felt like everything should have focused on rebuilding and repopulating, like making a fleet of smaller ships to show the UNSC's presence and integrate the colonies that did survive. And then once a secure net has been established and lines of communication and trade and resources and security of what we do have has been established, then I think we should have gone in the direction that both you and Radiant said about creating ships to either recolonize or find new planets to colonize. And obviously the Infinity is not that, where the Spirit of Fire was and was eventually converted into a carrier. So I think we need more things like the Spirit of Fire.
Agreed. And Spirit of Fire is from Halo Wars. It was a converted colony ship.
Just to further talk about the Infinity for a minute, I don't like not only the resource expenditure, but also the putting all of our eggs in one basket mentality, because it's supposedly the home and training base of the Spartan Force, which I agree that they should have a space mobile training facility so that they can, slip space themselves out of danger. That makes a lot of sense to me. But I don't see combining that with your capital ship on top of integrating all of your Forerunner tech, which it hasn't been confirmed whether they actually are able to mass produce this Forerunner tech, or they simply took the Forerunner artifacts that they had and implemented them into this ship. So can we use Forerunner tech now, or have we just poured it all into this one ship and that's all we got? My understanding is that that is unknown. And so this goes completely against military doctrine of being able to spread your critical vulnerabilities across a theater rather than pooling them all into one. Because if a terrorist group, rebels, or the Storm Covenant, or potentially the Flood comes back, or any threat faced by humanity takes out this ship, what do we have? We've got nothing.
Agreed. Although the UNSC historically has had a very much Pearl Harbor mentality. Let's keep everything together so it's secure. Even though, if we lose it, we're going to be, in a terrible situation that we might not be able to, dig our way out of.
I mean, I understand that to a point, because you have to mass your military force in order to create power within a theater. I understand that makes sense, but obviously taking it too far, like you said, the Pearl Harbor strategy is, creating a critical vulnerability rather than doing a sort of defense in depth, or a George Washington type strategy of spreading your forces out and making a few self-sustaining military groups that can operate on their own and exercise influence within an area, which I feel like would have been a more apt strategy.
Indeed. I mean, like I was saying earlier, it makes a lot of sense if they're, rebuilding the fleet and, this is the, prototype for a new command ship. But it doesn't really, that explanation doesn't really work, because we don't know if they can mass produce the Forerunner tech yet, which is one of the big things that gives Infinity, its punch. Makes it very effective. And I do like the analogy between post-World War II Britain or France and the UNSC at the end of the Covenant War, because they're victorious, but they're pretty much wiped out. I mean, we're down to Earth and a few inner colonies. It's not like we had a huge industrial base left over, which is what I was saying earlier, as we couldn't produce the Infinity and a lot of lighter ships at the same time. We gotta pick one or the other.
And I understand the advantage of the Infinity outside of prowess and ability, tactically or otherwise. It just seems, I understand the necessity to prove oneself as a galactic power, but the Infinity seems inefficient in doing that.
Well,
I wouldn't.
I'm not sure if I'm going to go that far. I do see the tactical implications of deploying the Infinity, and I agree with Nogary's assessment that it would make a great command ship, or even a flagship of fleets. Like each UNSC fleet would have their Infinity, whatever that is, being kind of the cornerstone or the anchor of the fleet. That makes a lot of sense to me, and it shows that humans have power. We can produce this awesome thing that can just ram Covenant corvettes in half, and we we can deploy all of this Forerunner tech and integrate it with tech that we have and we use, like the mag guns and stuff, which is funny. Magnetic accelerator cannon gun, yeah. Anyway, that makes a lot of sense to me. I get that.
ATM machine, automatic teller machine.
Yeah.
Machine.
Yeah, I mean that's a fairly prevalent thing. But yeah, the other thing that you said that I agree with was the. Sorry, lost my train of thought there. It was, and I'm getting lag. No.
The reason why I say it's inefficient with use of material is as soon as it hits down, at least story-wise, and admittedly it's story, it seems to be infiltrated. And even now, like, it's infiltrated. It's like, well, your operations of keeping people out isn't really working. And,
Yeah. I will.
It just seems. A lot of it just seems ad hoc and poorly managed overall. I'm not necessarily downing the entire idea of the Infinity on down the line. I'm just saying the timing of it now makes no sense to me.
Yes. So, and I mean, one of the big things that was kind of sort of brought up earlier, it is very much a great morale thing for the UNSC, because it's like, hey, we built this giant ship that no one really wants to screw with, because if they do, we'll just ram them in half or shoot holes in them.
Yes, I mean it is intimidating. I will give it that.
So, okay, what I'm hearing is, I feel like the Infinity would be a good idea if it was later, a couple of years later, or fit within a broader strategy that included inter-colony security and colony exploration and generation. So if its place within a broader UNSC strategy was elaborated on, would you guys agree that we could okay the idea of the Infinity? If it came later and then was
I'm willing to go that far.
Was fit in again within a broader scope, because we, given Halo 4, the game, the story, and the Spartan Ops, I definitely get the feeling that the UNSC Infinity is like the only ship, or the only ship of any merit. And I agree that its implementation seems ad hoc and kind of both strategically and tactically.
Yeah, I think had they gone, if I was the UNSC in the situation they were at the end of the Covenant War, I would have definitely gone with, let's build some lighter ships, get some defenses, get some, communication with the inner colonies that survived, and, let's start, recolonizing some area, give us more defensive depth, rather than build the Infinity and hold off on the Infinity until later.
So what about you, Radiant? Final thoughts?
I think that the positive aspects of the Infinity include its power and prowess. It is a technological feat for the UNSC and for humanity in general. I mean, it is a paragon of innovation, achievement. I just would not have signed the bill to have created at this time. I would have put it on hold until after humanity had recovered more fully from the Covenant War.
Okay. Well, that about does it for this episode. And for No Green Knights, Radiant Arkwolf, and myself, Lucky Fox Zero, thank you for watching. Make sure to leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you here for next week's episode of Debriefing.